Let's move on to next set of important concepts, which are basic arithmetic operators that you can use, or basic operators that you can use in Python programming language, right? So let's go through some simple arithmetic operators, right? You can divide addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division easily in Python, similar to other programming languages. And the first example that I'm giving is like you have a variable x that you are basically initializing directly by using three operator plus multiply and division operator that has been listed. Okay, so you can perform all this numerical operators, and there are different symbols that are used for different numerical operators like plus, minus, star, you know forward slash. Those are basically the operators that are used for plus, minus, multiplication, and division. Okay, so you can see that again we have done it dynamically, so it automatically, Python automatically understands that this operation results in a float variable. So the x in this case will be essentially a float variable that is out there. We can also use double forward slashes, which is the floor division operator. Similarly, two forward slashes are essentially going to give you the floor. Okay, so if I run this equation, this will give you 3. And why it's 3? Because if you divide 11 by 3, it will be in the division you will have 3 plus 2 remainder. The remainder is defined by this ampersand or percentage sign, or two forward slashes define the main floor of this division operator, and that's why you have 3 when we execute the code that I just executed using the two forward slash symbols that are out there. Okay. Try to cover another important concept in Python programming, which is related to printing or printf statements or print formatting statements. It turns out that the print formatting statements or commands in Python programming language is very, very similar to what you see in C language. If you have used C, then it's very, very similar to that. It essentially uses the percentage, symbol, and then on top of that, you add additional strings like S, D, and F to print different types of variables, for example, string variables, integer variables, floats, and so on. So let's go through some examples to see how we can use the print command or print formatting commands in Python language. So I have here a few examples, right? For example, if you want to print out a greeting where you want to say, hello, John, what we have done here in this code block, on the top, we have allocated, hello to greeting variable and John to the username, and then we are essentially issuing a print within braces percentage s to denote that we are printing out a string variables greeting and username, and that's what we have done here in this last line of the first block. So if you specify that, then this output should print out hello John. So let me run this block. So once I'm running this block, you can see the print output is hello John. Okay, and this is the way you can print out string variables. Now, if you want to print out some combination, let's say, of string and integers that you might have, then in that case, what you can do is you can use something like what is there in the second code block that I have listed, right? In the second code block, we have age, and then we have also which is basically an integer variable that we have done, and on top of that we have a string variable that is essentially the username, and we are combining that in the print command that you have, and you see the usage of percentage s is percentage d. So print the username is the year of old that user is, using the username and the age variables that has been included in that print command. So if I execute this print command, then you will see that it prints out that John is 23-year-old. So this is how you can essentially use print commands, and you can print out, multiple different, important combinations of strings and, integers that is out there. So the next code block, which is right here, we are presenting, or you are trying to print out a float variable with up to a certain decimal. So what we have command, we have a variable a which was equated to 20.55555, Okay, and if you want to print out the float up to 2 decimal, right, then we can use this command which is given as percentage dot 2f, so up to 2 decimals of that float, and then percentage a, which gives the what variable we need to be printing. So if I execute this code block, then you can see the output of this code block is 20.56. Now this 20.56 is the nearest representation of this float number a, which is 20.55555 up to 2 decimals. So this is how you can basically use a printf command to print a float variable up to a certain number of variables that we have. Okay. Now, if you want to print out hex representation, you can use percentage x, which is rarely used, but if you're interested in using hex representation, you can use percentage x, and then you can specify percentage f, which is the number you want to represent in the hex representation. It will automatically convert that, and it will print out f, which is the hex representation of number 15. So these are few examples how you can use the print formatting styles present in Python to print out different variables that you might be interested. So now let's move on to the another topic, which are topic of conditions, and they are very, very important in many different applications where you have to set conditions, and based upon whether that condition is satisfied or not satisfied, you want to execute different other pieces of code. Okay, and these conditions are very, very important construct in any programming languages, and let's look into how conditions could be used in the Python programming languages here. Okay. So Python essentially uses Boolean logic to evaluate different concepts, so true or false. It determines whether true and false, and depending upon that condition, Boolean logic condition, it acts on the next part of the code that you might have. So here we have essentially, you can see code where we have initialized x equal to 2, and we want to print out the result of x equal to 3, whether the x that we have initialized is equal to 3 or not. Okay. And we want to print out, the results of different conditions that we have here, which is print x is x equal to 3. Is it x equal to 3? Or if not 3, is x greater than 0? Or is x greater than or equal to 0? In those kind of situations that we want to test out. So if I run this code block, right, you will see we will get multiple different outputs, which tells us whether all the conditions that we have listed here are true or false. So let's run this code block. Okay, and you will see the output of this code block is essentially false, true, 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 true. So if you look into the first condition, print x equal to 3, that is false, and that's why you have false, while the remaining all the conditions are satisfied because your x value is equal to 2, and it is not equal to 3, it is greater than 0, it is greater than equal to 0, it is less than 3, and it is less than equal to 3. All those conditions has been satisfied. That's why you have true, 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 true for all the remaining condition except the first condition in this code block. Okay, and this is how you can check conditions in Python programming languages. Another interesting and very useful concept in programming, which is like Boolean operations. You can use and or Boolean operations to essentially build very complex Boolean expressions that you can use in your programs. Okay, so we have a code block right here where we have initiated name and age, which are essentially a string and integer variable, and using Boolean operator and we want to basically add them together. Okay, so that's what we have done in the first line. Okay, and similarly using the second line, we have changed the age value to 24, and we basically want to print that out. Okay, and in the third one, we are using OR operator. We are using a string or age, and we are printing those out. So let's execute all of this code block, and you will see different outputs, right? You can see the first output gave John is 23-year-old, and the last output also gave John is 23-year-old. Okay, so you can use this addition. You can add different logic and an OR, and you can evaluate them separately, the individual statements separately, and compose them together to create complex Boolean expression that might be needed for your programming requirement, and that is what is essentially taken care by this Boolean operators that are out there. Okay. Let's move on to the important concept in Python that typically Python uses indentation to define a code block instead of brackets, which are basically used in some programming languages. And the standard Python indentation is 4 spaces, right? Although you can use tabs or any other space size will work as long as it is consistent, okay? Notice that typically the code blocks do not need any termination. So you do not have curly braces beginning or curly braces ending. It can end anyways way, right? And this is an important concept that you need to keep in mind when you are, writing your programming, your Python programming languages. One of the important other concept that I want to discuss is the in operator to check if a specified object exists within an iteratable object container such as the list, right? So what we can do is we can define a list which is given, list name is names is equal to John and Rick, which is basically storing two string variables, okay? And I have another variable which is username, and I want to check whether that username is present in the list of the names or not. Then we can do that using this in operator that is down here. So that's what is written in this code block here. So I want to check using this code block that we have discussed whether John is in the list names or not. So if I run, I think the expression should come out that it is there, and that's why we are printing good. That means yes, the username John is present in the list names that are out there. Similarly, we can check out whether a username Tim is present in the list or not, right? So if I execute this code, again, you will see that since Tim is not present in this list names John and Rick, and Tim is not in that list, that's why we have printed out bad, because in that list, Tim name was not there, so we got that output. So that's an important operator, which is in operator, that is typically used to find a specific element inside a list or not. Similarly, unlike the double equalator operator, is operator does not match the value of the variable but the instances themselves, right? So is operator is an important operator that you can use in many different places in Python programming. And here we are essentially having two different lists, x equal to 1 and 2, y equal to 1 equal to 2. And if I want to print out, the output of this list, you can see that since you're using double equal to, since both the lists are same, you're getting an output value true in this case. Whereas in the case if we are running an is operator, if x is y, since they are two different, essentially, list which are different, you will get a false output in this case. Okay. So those is operator is a slightly different operator in double equal to, and it could be used in many cases to differentiate between whether the value contained by the list is same or whether we are talking about different list or not, using the is operator that is out there.